If you are struggling with self-doubt right now, you are not alone. I am right there with you, and it is the worst. I hate self-doubt, but it is part of being human, and I know that there is a way through this. So I want to share my top tools for you, and if this is something that you are struggling with, please keep following along because I'm going to be sharing a top 5 tangible tools that you can use right away to help you work through self-doubt wherever you're experiencing that in your own life, whether that is with work, with relationships, with a special project you're working on. It could literally be anything. I'm right here with you, and I got you. Hello, my beautiful friend, and welcome back to the Self-Love Garden. My name is Ana Marquez, and I am a self-love and body image coach on a mission to help you learn how to love yourself and your body from the inside out. Woo! Today is going to be a little bit more personal. I have really been struggling with a lot of self-doubt lately, and this is something that I have experienced at many different times in my life, and I want to share some of the tools that I am really working on accessing to work through and trudge through the mud of self-doubt so I can get on the other end and really access inner confidence. Now, before we jump into the different tools, I do want to take a minute to invite you to do a couple things. First, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of my videos. I'm working on making these videos more consistent and am hoping to start putting out videos every single week. If you want more love and support, and if loving your body is something that you really struggle with, I actually designed a very special course called How to Love Your Body in 3 Days. I'll link the sign up below, and every single day you will receive a new lesson and a new guided audio meditation that'll really help you access body love and teach you the 3 strong foundations for loving your body from the inside out. And then lastly, I want to invite you to join me for a live virtual workshop that I will be hosting in May called Mothering Your Inner Child. This is going to be an 1.5-hour workshop where I'm going to be leading you through a guided meditation, journal prompts, and we are going to be able to just be in community with one another and learn some tools to help us learn how to mother our inner child. You definitely don't want to miss this. I'm going to be putting the link below as well, and I am hoping to do monthly workshops moving forward, hopefully starting in May. So be sure to sign up for that and sign up for my email list too so you don't miss when those are. And again, I'll put all the links below. So I hope to see you over there because you deserve to love yourself, and I want to arm you with all the tools possible. Okay, so now that we have all of those goodies covered, let's go ahead and jump into the juicy goodness of what you came here for. Tools to help you trudge through the mud of self-doubt. I have personally been really struggling with self-doubt lately around my business and career. The reason for this is because I started my business in the midst of that pandemic after building this beautiful, robust online course called Building Body Love, which I'm working on getting out to the public, so hopefully you will have access to that soon. And I ran a beautiful group coaching program, but in the middle of that, I was also dealing with some pretty personal trauma and mental health issues that I had to confront. And one of the steps I took to cope with this was I deleted my Instagram and I deleted my Facebook. Now, it cut off a limb to communicating with a lot of people and really growing my business. And it was a tremendous act of self-love, but it did come at a cost, even though it was a personal choice and it was the right choice for me, and I do not regret it. Then I ended up deciding to take the step to get a traditional professional job because there were some priorities in my personal life that needed to take the front seat with finances, and also just making sure that I was really around for my partner and for my family and friends who really needed me. With this job really came burnout, and I had to put my business, my passion, the self-love garden on the back burner. And I was not in a place where I felt like I could create, where I could give from an authentic position. And so everything just kind of came to a screeching halt until only a few months ago when, as life would have it, I was laid off from said professional job. And as challenging and difficult as that has been, it has opened up this space to create again. But I'm a new person now. I've evolved, I've changed, and so I'm in this murky liminal stage of just trying to figure out, what do I want to give to the world right now? How can I be best in service while honoring the path and the journey of others that I want to lead towards self-love and body love, while still honoring and taking care of myself? Now, we also live in a really financially challenging society where many of us do have to have a traditional job to survive. So I'm also in the midst of working on finding a career that feels more aligned, that is steadier while I build up my business. And I'm experiencing a lot of self-doubt in both of these areas. Self-doubt in my business because, man, I have really tried. I've really tried before, and I feel like I just failed. I feel like I let the people down that I care about. I feel like I let myself down because I abandoned something that I care so deeply about. And I'm scared to take the steps forward to keep growing. I'm scared to keep walking forward and to let myself be seen and to try again for fear of failing or letting myself down or abandoning what I care about. In my career, I'm experiencing self-doubt because I was laid off, and that hurt. And the way that I was laid off, even though so many companies are doing layoffs right now, there were many months leading up to when I was laid off that were very challenging on a personal level. There were many situations that I believe were very, very mishandled. And so I'm still coping with that, and I'm trying to find that confidence internally to find a path forward in my career. And it's really hard. It's really hard. So I'm struggling with self-doubt, and every single day I do my best to access the tools that I can to work through that self-doubt. And some days are better than others, but I want to share what the 5 tools are that are really supportive of me right now as I move through this. And I hope that they are supportive for you too. And I believe these are tools that you can really apply to any area of your life. These are tools that I applied to myself when I was experiencing self-doubt in my identity, when I was experiencing self-doubt in my relationship with my body, when I was experiencing self-doubt in my ability to build self-love. So I believe that you can really use these for any circumstance that you are in. The first tool that I am heavily leaning on and I'm really working on strengthening is to encourage yourself like a loving parent. I'm really working on encouraging myself like a loving parent. It doesn't matter if you had super loving and supportive parents or not. You can still reparent yourself. And what I recommend doing is taking time to really identify the voice of what your loving parent sounds like. So maybe that is recalling memories of how your parents treated you as a kid when you fell down and got hurt, or when you were, trying out for the soccer team or trying out for a play or whatever it was. How did they speak to you? How did they encourage you through that with kindness and love and compassion? Now, if you don't have that memory to pull on, think of somebody else in your life who has really encouraged you through a tough time. Maybe this is your sister or your brother or a really good friend, or maybe even it is an influencer or a thought leader that you really look up to. What vocabulary words do they use? What tone do they have? Is it loving? Is it compassionate? Is it gentle? try to identify what that sounds like. And when you are in a moment of self-doubt, speak to yourself with that voice. Somebody for me that has played a really big role in really extending kindness to myself has been my husband. He treats me with the most unconditional love and kindness through every circumstance. And it's so beautiful now because I realize that when I'm going through a hard time, I will literally speak to myself out loud, saying something that I think he would say to me in that moment. And it helps so much. So encourage yourself like a loving parent. And if this is something that you want more assistance in identifying, then please join me for my live workshop in May, Mothering Your Inner Child, because this is exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna work together and we're each going to identify what that loving parent sounds like and build the muscle so that you can mother your inner child with love, kindness, and compassion. So I'll put the link below and be sure to sign up for that. It's gonna be in May and it's gonna be totally virtual so you can join from anywhere. The second tool that I have for you is to measure and celebrate your progress. Speaking of loving parents, one of the most important tools that I ever learned from my mom was to focus on progress over perfection. And my mom was an elementary school teacher for decades until she retired a couple years ago. And she would always celebrate the students that had the most progress. So when a student went from an F to a C, that was a huge leap. That was more of a leap than the student that had an A all year round. And she would treat my siblings and I with the same regard, right? She didn't really pay so much attention to the letter grade, but she would look at our progress. And sometimes that wasn't always reflected in a grade. Maybe it was her asking, oh, what did you learn from this experience, right? And this is a memory that I recalled this morning. And I was like, man, I have got to apply this to my own life and this circumstance right now with self-doubt. Because the truth is, every single one of us is coming from a different starting place. And that deserves to be acknowledged. Only you know the path that you have taken to get to where you are today. So when you get into this comparison spiral, remember that. Remember your own journey of where you are, and that cannot be compared to somebody else's success because they might have been at a completely different starting place. This doesn't make it fair of what each person's starting place is, but it can help us to extend compassion to ourselves when we are working towards a new goal, when we are working towards healing, when we are working towards self-love, because maybe the hurdles that we have to overcome are greater than somebody else that is already there. Maybe they only had to take one step, but we had to take 20, right? I mean, I think of somebody who might be healing from an injury, who is able to walk again, right? Them making the step from healing, let's say, a leg injury to walking, that takes a lot more work and time than it does for somebody who never had that injury in the first place and could go outside on a walk without thinking, right? That's just an example, but think in your own life where your starting place was and where you are now. And celebrate that progress. Maybe take time to journal and ask yourself, you know, what was my starting place here? What have I done to get to this place? You know, so for me, it's what have I done so far to build my business? What have I had to overcome along the way? Because the reality is as much as we're moving towards our own goals, life is still happening. The world still spins on. Things that are out of your control happen, right? And so it's like we're going through life and it's not a straight line towards our goal. It's not a straight line to achieve our dreams, right? It's often a lot more complicated, and depending on your starting point, it could be the wildest, hardest obstacle course that anybody's ever imagined. So only you know what it's taken to get to where you are. So celebrate you and your progress and what it's taken. The third tool that I have for you is to look in your past and find evidence of your success. I believe there is strong power in our own personal stories. And I believe in finding these anchor stories from our past that we can look back to draw upon our own inner strength and say, I've done this before. I've overcome this challenge before. I have faced my fears before. Okay, so look back and ask yourself, where have you succeeded before? How long did it take? What tools did you use to get to that place? Right? For me, one of the stories that I look back on happened when I was a teenager. I got in trouble one summer when I was 14 years old, and I was grounded for the whole summer. This was before smartphones, so there was no entertainment. I read like every library book possible. And I was just distraught. My family was going through a very challenging time, emotionally and financially. My parents had gone through a divorce a few years earlier, and it was right during the 2008 economic crisis or right thereafter, and there were a lot of challenges. My sister had gone off to school, and my brother was about to graduate, and being the youngest, I could see, I was like, I'm not going to be left here alone. I have to find a way out of here. I have to find a way to get myself out of the situation so I can build perspective. And so I decided that I was going to study abroad in high school. The earliest age I could do that was 16, so I had to wait for 2 years. But in that time, I got a job at 14 years old, and for other reasons as well. But this allowed me the ability to make money and save money. I fundraised for myself. I made jewelry and silk screened handbags and t-shirts and sold those. And I ended up raising the money to travel abroad in Italy for 7 months when I was a junior in high school. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. I look back to this time because there were so many obstacles in my way, more than what I could even share with you here. I look back at that time and I'm like, wow, when all the odds were stacked against me, I did that. So I know moving forward, I can overcome this obstacle too. So look back in your life and identify where you've had success before. Where is the evidence that you've been successful? And if you are feeling that self-doubt creep in and you're like, I've never been successful before, I've never overcome this, call in a loved one and ask them. Ask them for their input and ask them, what they're proud of you for overcoming and succeeding in. And that'll help to get the wheels turning. Now that brings me to my next tool, which is to keep perspective. Everyone blooms at their own time. And I find this tool and this mindset to be very difficult. Very difficult. And it's something that I am really working on because we live in a culture of comparison. We live in a culture that celebrates fast wins, right? We have so many 30 under 30 lists. You always hear people touting their accomplishments on social media. And again, we have to remember that not everybody's starting at the same place. We live in a very unequal society. And not everybody has the same starting place, and not everybody is going to get somewhere as fast as the next person. Now, that doesn't make it fair, that doesn't make it right, but if we can keep this perspective to have compassion with ourselves and trust that our timing is coming, then I believe we can open up a level of self-trust that we didn't really have access to before. This is also a lesson that I've really been learning as I observe spring taking place around me. And as I walk out, there are some flowers that are beautifully in bloom right now. I see daffodils, there's cherry blossoms, and they're so gorgeous. But amidst all that, there's also small, tiny buds. There's some trees that don't have even an inkling of anything on them right now. But that doesn't mean that they won't bloom. They will bloom in their own time and at their own pace. Remember that everyone blooms at different times, and your time will come, and I'll let you in on a secret. Sometimes it's the most beautiful flowers that take the most work and the most time. So when you feel that comparison seeping in, or when you are feeling down on yourself for not getting somewhere as fast as you possibly can, and other people are showing their successes, just say, my time will come. I trust that my time will come, and it will. And the last tool that I have for you is to ignite your inner bravery. When I came out as bi about 7 years ago, my siblings were some of the first people that I told. And although I wasn't experiencing self-doubt in a goal, I was experiencing self-doubt in my sense of belonging. I was experiencing self-doubt in my identity and my self-worth. And one of the most powerful things that my brother told me when I came out to him and my sister was, sometimes the best way to practice bravery is just by being yourself. And this gave me courage at a time when I was really suffering and I was really hurting, and I didn't know the steps forward, and how some days how I would even make it through the day. This came at a time when I was very low. Very low. And I remember every single morning I would say to myself, I would remember what my brother told me, and I would say, I don't have to feel amazing. I don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have to feel 100% confident in who I am or believe that I belong. I just have to be brave. And I think that we can all use this reminder to be brave with whatever we are dealing with, right? So for me, how that manifests where I'm at now is I'm having a lot of fear with being myself on camera, with putting my work into the world, with sharing my stories, because I have experienced rejection before, because I have failed before, because it can be just terrifying to be yourself in a world that is so harsh and so cruel. But I remember those words that my brother shared with me and how I used it through such a difficult time, and I tell myself, it doesn't have to be perfect on it. People don't have to like you. You don't have to be successful. You just have to be brave. So if you are working on loving your body and you've had hardships in doing so, you don't have to love your body right away. You don't have to accept every inch of you. You don't have to feel amazing at all times and always feel positive. You just have to be brave enough to keep going and to take the steps towards body love, towards being kind to your body. You have to be brave enough to take those steps. Maybe you're healing from a really difficult breakup, but you want to find love again. That's really tough. That's really tough. Remind yourself to be brave. You don't have to be confident. You don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to be 100% self-assured and secure. But be brave, and you will be amazed at what accessing your inner bravery can do for you. I know this because it's gotten me through a lot. It's okay that you're experiencing self-doubt right now in whatever area that may be. We live in a world and a culture that makes it very hard for most people. And for a lot of people more than others. And we face a lot of messaging and a lot of hurdles that tell us that we are not good enough, that we're not beautiful enough, that we're not going to make it. So of course, we all experiencing self-doubt from time to time. How could we not? So be so gentle with yourself as you trudge through the mud of self-doubt and work on building up that inner self-trust and self-confidence brick by brick by brick by brick. And I hope that these tools help you. And I'd love to cheer you on, so please leave a comment below. Let me know where you're experiencing self-doubt or what helps you through self-doubt, and we can all uplift each other in community. Like I said, I'm going through this too, and it is tough, and it's like just when you reach one level of healing or success, there's always more. So just be so kind to yourself and so gentle, and remember to practice self-care as well as you go through this, and be so kind to yourself. I'm sending you so much love, so much encouragement. The world needs you. The world needs your presence and your existence and your gifts. And I am so grateful to have you here and to be sharing this time and this earth with you. Please be sure to hit subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd love to keep cheering you on in your self-love journey. And I can't wait to see you again in the next video. Take care.